Hello, my name is Carl Surrey and this is a video tutorial for two Facebook groups, Fans of Serif Software and the Affinity Designer and Photo group. This is a tutorial mainly aimed at beginners and people who are new to Affinity Designer and Affinity Photo. Now, this is just having a little bit of fun with altering text. This is an example of what I've done, and I'm going to aim for something similar to this, although it probably won't end up looking exactly the same. And you can do this in Affinity Designer or Affinity Photo. I'm going to do this in Photo because I'm more comfortable with the program than I am with Designer. I'm also doing this on the PC version. I'm assuming that the Mac version is almost 100% similar. But if it isn't, you may have to sort of hunt around for the different things. So what we need is a new document. This particular one I've done is almost 2500 by 1500 pixels, so that is the size I'm going to go for. You can pick whatever size you like. I'm going to go to New, and I'm going to set this to pixels and then do my own size, so it's 2500 by 1500, and I'll leave it at 300 dpi. Just click OK. Now, the first thing you might want to do is the white background, or whichever color background you want to go for, but I'm going to use white. Now, as you can see, when I started this, when I went to New, I have transparent background ticked. Now you can take that tick out and it should automatically open up with a white background. So you could do it that way, or if, like me, you've done it with a transparent background, you could add a white layer in a various numbers of ways. Probably the most obvious one would be to come up to the layer menu and just put new fill layer, and as white is the foreground color here, it should automatically just fill that with white. So press Ctrl and Z to go back to this transparent layer. Another way you could get the white background is just this icon down here, is just add new pixel layer. You just click on that and it will add a blank layer. Come to the flood fill tool, and again, as white is the foreground color, just click anywhere in there and you will have a white background. So that's 3 different ways that you could get a white background. And one last way I will show you, it's pretty much along the same lines as the fill layer. Let me press Ctrl and Z to get rid of that. You click on the gradient tool, and at the moment it's got here type none, and if you do the drop down menu and click on solid, because white was the foreground color, it will just make a white solid in that area. So that's 4 different ways of getting a white background, or whatever color you may want and whatever color is set as the foreground color. So let's move on with the text. Now I'm going to be using artistic text. There are 2 types of text. This little downward arrow next to the A here, you can have either artistic text or frame text. So I'm going to be going with artistic text, and once you've got the cursor with the little crosshairs and the A, you just click, hold and drag out to a size that you want, and when you let go you will have this cursor flashing. Now on PC version, at least, the default font is Arial, and I'm doing this in the new version of Affinity Photo, which is 1.6, which has this new type of text picker option here, which will do them alphabetically, and you can just start typing. If you know the name of the text you want to use, you can just type in. So for example, one of the free texts that came with the free downloads with this 1.6 version was Jimmy Sands. So if I just started pressing like the J, as you can see, it starts off with the Jimmy, all those that begin with J, and then you've got, after that, you've got some fonts that have J's in them. But you can see the Jimmy Sands font is there. And if you like that one, you can make it one of your favorites, and you can add it to your favorites list. And also, you see these numbers in brackets. That means there are like this one here has 3 different versions. So if I click on this arrow here and make it a downward arrow, the 3 versions are light, regular and bold. Some will only come in 1 version, and like this Microsoft, however you want to pronounce it, I don't know how you pronounce that. This comes in 6 versions, 2 light versions, 2 regular versions, 2 bold versions. Probably because I may have the True Type font and the Open Type font installed. But basically that is how you can select your font. The one I'm going to use is Berkshire Swash. So I'll just draw this out again, and then I'll just type my name. So that, and then I'll just click on the move tool and I'll just put it in a better position, and I will just alter the size. I'm just going to hold down the control key when I do this, just so it resizes uniformly, if that's a word, and I'll position it there. So I'm fairly happy with that. And this font comes in only 1 size, which is regular, and you can check that up here with this little button next to the size and the name. So what I'm also going to do now is I'll come back to the artistic text button, and I will just, you've got the cursor up here, but you can also just put the cursor down there and then click and hold and drag back to the beginning and highlight all the text. And then I'm going to click on this character button up here, and it will open up this floating character box. And you have various character options here. I'm not going to go into all of them, but the one I'm going to use is this shear, which will just tilt the letters over. Normally if you had this set to italics, it would lean over to the right. So this time I'm going to lean it over to the left. So I'm going to go to the minus and go to about there, and then just get rid of the character box. So again, I'll come off that tool so you can see that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to duplicate this layer 2 times. Now you can do this either by coming up to well, very rarely I do this by menus, I've forgotten where it is. Layer, you can come up to duplicate, or you can press Ctrl and J, or you can just right click on the layer that it's on and come down to duplicate. And like I said, you can just press Ctrl and J to duplicate it. So I have 3 versions of this layer. Now the middle version is the one I'm going to keep black, and I'm going to keep it that size. I'm not going to do the top version layer, I should say. I'm going to keep it as is. So I'm going to come down to the middle layer, and I'm going to be altering this. So again, I need to highlight the text. So I'll come to artistic text again, and then just click and drag and highlight all the text. And along this top bar here we have two color panels. Fill is set to black, which is what the color of the text is. And the one next to it is blank, and this is called stroke. Now I don't know why it's called stroke. It's a rather a misleading name in my opinion. It should just be called edge, or it should be called stroke edge. But this is basically the outside edge of the text, or whichever object it is that has a stroke option. So if you just click into that, it'll open up this panel here, so you can pick the color of the stroke. Now you can do this via the swatches. Click on one of these options or one of the other swatch options. I prefer to go by the color tab and pick a color that I want. So I'm going to go for an orange color, which is about there, I think. So as you can see, this stroke box is now filled with the orange. Now the box next to it is got a line, and it's got 0.2 points. So if I click on that, one to get rid of the stroke options, and then click on it again to open the options for altering the stroke. And as you can see, like I said, it's set on 0.2, so I'll just click and move this slider to the right, and hopefully you can see that orange option, stroke option, is now coming outside of the black, which is the top layer. So I'm happy where that is at the moment, so I'll just click on this edge here to close that box. I will leave that highlighted, but I will click on the layer below, and as you can see, you've lost that highlight now because it's on a different layer. So I'll need to come back and highlight the text again, and very similar to what we did before, I'm going to click on the stroke box, which again has gone blank because it is one of the options that I've not set the stroke yet. So I'll just click on this, pick a color, and this time I'm going to go for a blue. It's about there, I quite like. And you can't see at the moment because the stroke is still set on 6.6, which is the option that I set for this orange layer. So that blue is underneath the orange and you can't see it. But I'm going to click on this line here and then just nudge that blue stroke color a little bit higher to about there, so you can see it. So I'm happy with that. I'll come off this tool so you can see how that looks. So as you can see, we're just using the one layer, duplicate twice, and altering the stroke for the other two layers to different colors and different sizes. You get a different look. But now I'm going to add a little bit of effects to both of these bottom two layers. I'm not going to touch the top layer. So starting with the bottom blue layer, now you could probably rename these if you wanted to, so you knew which one you were working on. So I could just call this one blue and just click on it, this one, and call this orange. You don't have to rename them, it's not essential, but just so you know in your own mind, you know which ones you are working on. So I will click and highlight on the blue layer, and you can do this in two ways. So you can either come to the effects tab and use the effects this way, but I personally prefer to keep the layers visible so I don't mistakenly start working on a different text, different layer, without myself realizing. which is quite easy to do. Just if I like click on the bottom layer by mistake here, help if I was on the move tool. If I just click on the bottom layer, it will change layers, and you could then start affecting a layer you don't want to. So I open the effects by clicking on this FX button down here. You click on that and it will open the effects in their own little floating box. And as you can see, I can still see my layers and make sure I am working on the right layer. So what I'm going to do, remember we are working on the blue layer here. I'm going to put a tick in the 3D box, and then I'm going to click on the word 3D just so we get all the 3D options. And I'm going to push up the radius until I'm happy with the look. I'm quite happy with that. It's around 9.4. Getting this 3D effect on the blue. You could change other options here, but I mean, like, you could change the direction of that 3D look, but I quite like it where it is over in the default setting, which is, now I've lost it, somewhere around here. So you can move it inwards and around, or out to the outside edge, but I'm going to bring it in slightly and about there. Yes, I'm quite happy with that. I am also going to click on the outline options. So I put a tick in the outline box, click on the word outline to get the outline options. Again, you can reset the color if you want. You can just click in the box here and pick a color, but I'm going to leave mine on black. And I'm going to then move up the slider, and hopefully you can start to see there's a black outline outside of the blue, giving us 3 different colors like black, orange, blue, and then black again. And the last effect I'm going to add to this is an outside shadow. So I'll click on outside shadow and then click on the word outside shadow to get the options. Now this is what used to be called a drop shadow, I think, but in Affinity Photo and Designer it's called outside shadow. So I'm just going to pump all 3 of these options up until I can see the shadow. Easier to see it first and then make alterations, and I find that's it. So it's now just a case of deciding how strong you want the shadow, how far you want it to come away from the text. The radius slider will sort of change it from being a very hard edged shadow, and the higher you come, that shadow will become a more fuzzy edged shadow. The offset will give you the distance away from the text, so I want this to be quite a distance away. And the intensity, again, it alters how fuzzy or strong that effect is. So I'm going to leave it like that, and again you can move this around to alter where that shadow will be, but I suppose they've renamed it from drop shadow to outer shadow, because if you had the shadow over here, it's not really dropping down, I suppose it's outside. But right, so I'll just click on close. So that is the altering finished on the blue layer. I'm now going to click and highlight on the orange layer, and again I'm going to click on the effects button. As this is a new layer, it has all the options are clear, so you won't be transferring the options you've used on the blue to this layer, because it'd be totally different. So this time I'm going to use the bevel and emboss So I'm going to click on the box to put a tick in it, click on the words to give me the options, and this time I'm going to change at the moment it's set on type, and I'm going to change that to inner, and then I'm just going to push up the radius until I'm happy with the way it looks. Again, you can change the angle and color by whether you move this dot inside or to the outside edge. So it's more a case of what you like the look of. I'll leave that there. Now again, I could add a smaller outline, so click on outline, and I'll just put a smaller black outline around the orange. There we go. So we're now going black, orange, black, blue, black. I'll close that, come off this tool, and basically that is it, finished really. With just a simple bit of text, we've made it look a little bit funky, for want of a better phrase. But if you were doing this in a much larger document and you wanted to keep this all together, what you need to do, if you click on the top layer, hold down the shift button and click on the bottom layer of the text, and then right click on it and click on group. This will group these all together, and you could rename that group so you know what this is. And let's say for example we're going to call this heading. You would then know what this group is and what where they are on the layer scales if you had lots of other layers. And because they are all grouped together, if I come to the move tool, if I move one, it moves all of them and they all stay in the same position and place to how you had them set. So hopefully that will help beginners have a little bit of fun with the text. I suggest you try it out and try different variations and different effects to see which one you like. So thank you for watching, and goodbye.